Welcome to Business Partners,
a podcast for couple colleagues building a business and life together.
Through interviews, we'll share common struggles and stories unique to partners living and working side by side.
Listen in as we learn what works and doesn't work when working together as a couple.
You ready to do this?
Let's get down to business. Shane and Dew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have y'all here. We know you guys, and we're so thankful to be friends with y'all. But our listeners need to know who you are. They need to know. So, can you tell us about your business and when you started it, and then we'll get into maybe the personal side of things.
We have a sales coaching company called Skillway, where we will teach you how to crush your sales goals and love what you do.
I love that. So, It sounds like you've answered that question a few times.
a few times. We do sales coaching, sales consulting. Primarily, it's one-on-one coaching. That's what we and our team do, a lot of one-on-one coaching with relationship-based salespeople and managers and sales leaders. Then we do group coaching, and then we'll do like special one-off consulting stuff as well too. If people need help, like creating a sales comp, plan or job descriptions for their salespeople, onboarding, customized training and that sort of thing.
So that was kind of a broad audience. Do you have like a specific kind of target audience that can benefit most from what you guys offer?
Well, first, one of the primary questions we get is, are you industry specific? And we're not industry specific. However, we only work with sales professionals in the relationship-based sales space. So that means that you are taking really great care of your customers. And typically you have a retainer model or something like that. So we don't work in any of the transaction business, which typically falls in one-on-one, one and done sales, or maybe door-to-door sales or anything high pressure. So no timeshares.
Right. But a lot of our businesses we do some manufacturing if they're, because we're helping them sell to the retail outlets, those sort of things. Most of our clients are services, like B2B services, that kind of thing. It's building this relationship and then having this, client hopefully for life. So, no high pressure, sleazy tactics. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with an unhappy client that's a bad fit, right?
Mm-hmm. So true. And how long ago did you start Skillway?
We started Skillway in 2017. So we just hit 6 years this year.
Wow. I want to get into how it came to be. Yeah, seriously, major high five. I pray to God we get there.
So take us back to when you met. How'd you become a couple?
Ooh, that's good.
It's good.
Well, I'll say this because we get asked a question, which I'm sure you guys get asked a lot, which is like, how do you work with your spouse? Like, how do you make that work? Which I always, one thing I always say is like, I don't pretend to say that it's for everyone. I'm sure that it's not for everyone. But one of the reasons I think it works so well for us, we met at work, 25-ish years ago. Wow. We met at work.
25, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's a long time.
Where
what that means?
Where was that?
That means we're old.
Exactly.
We worked for a really big mortgage company. It was a division of GMAC, finance, but it was the mortgaging, sort of arm of that. I was a software developer, and I was actually a consultant, but I went to this company and sat in a cubicle like everybody else all day, every day. And you weren't on the same team in the beginning.
Not right away.
But then later you got moved over to our team. But it was a really big company. It had a really great culture. And I think there was, I'd say 10 or 15 of us, a group of 10 or 15 of us that became pretty good friends. And we would eat lunch together a lot, sort of shifting in and out, or we would have, happy hour things or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this bigger group. And that was like several years. I mean, we were both with other people when we met. But we actually, I think we only started having one-on-one conversations because we were both going through divorces. So that was sort of our thing. We became like divorce buddies,
Mm-hmm.
She knew I was going through a big divorce and came and was asking me, advice about lawyers and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Apartments,
yeah.
dishes.
So we became friends, going through that. And then it sort of felt like, going through, being in the foxhole with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had like that thing in common. And then we started dating, but really in the beginning when we started dating and going out, we just talked about divorce, for a long time. And I remember one time we actually had hey, let's not talk about that this whole date and see if we actually have anything in common. Yeah.
It is very all-consuming as people who have both been
we can
through it
relate.
ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. It is.
Yeah. And do you know why it's so expensive?
Why?
Because it's worth it.
Dude, that's some wisdom.
That's a Shane joke, but I claim it all the time because it's true. True
that's
story.
Really good.
That's my favorite clean divorce joke.
I can't wait. I know you have some dad jokes up your sleeve for this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I want to hear the dirty jokes.
That's for later. But
for couples dinner.
Yeah. So but that's how we started dating. So we were working at the same company when we started dating. And then it's funny because the business around in there, that company moved to a new location and everything got shifted around. And then there was a while where we literally had cubicles that backed up,
to each other. Yeah.
Kind of like shared. It would be like a bullpen. So we were sort of like, I could turn my chair around and she was right there.
Oh, wow.
So right from the start, we kind of got into the I'm around you all day and then in the evening and whatever. And then she left and went to a different mortgage company. And within a couple of weeks, she was like, man, they really need you here. And so I left and went to that company as well. So, we worked at multiple different places. And so we've always just had this sort of talking about work and leaning on each other, we're very opposite in a lot of ways, and our skill sets are opposite in a lot of ways. So I feel like we've mentored each other through things. It was like, and I got my first executive job, and she saw me reading every book and trying to learn and what I was struggling with, and she was helping me with the confidence part of that. And then when she got her first executive job, it was like, okay, here's some things I've learned. Yeah. And so that's always the way it was, regardless of where we worked. And we've just kind of always been very all up in each other's business. So
sounds like you really figured out you couldn't work without each other.
Without each other.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. We're pretty codependent and interdependent, I would say at this point. But but that's been an ongoing thing. Today. And I think that's helped a lot. I would say I've literally at this point, she's been my boss. I've been her boss. By the time we started this company, I think we'd worked through all the ego kind of things and all of that. So now that we're working more side by side, I'm grateful that we've worked out a lot of that stuff.
That's valuable. So take us to the point where Skillway became an idea that you started talking about, and then how you turned that idea into what it is today. What were kind of the events that led to it?
Because of the way we had always worked together, Shane and I have been the type of couple where, today we just take out our phone and look at our calendar and debrief meeting by meeting. What was your day today? But I started at a consulting firm in 2011 as a sales coach. And when I started growing my team and I was like, now I have to start recruiting, Shane's like, I can recruit. Let me do the recruiting for you. So even though we were not working together at that point, we still were so integral to each other's business. And the company that I was consulting for just had some challenges, and it was like an ethical fit in both directions. And in 2016, I left that company and really thought that I was just going to be an independent consultant. Shane had built my website, salescoachdew.com, and it was very successful, and I had great content out there. And I really thought that that's all we were going to do. And it was very soon after that we realized we were creating all of this amazing content, and it kind of felt, I'll say, kind of like a waste, that it was only going to be used by me with my clients. And so we started playing with the idea of, let's do something with this. And Shane uses different words than I use. I'm like, we started this together. It was like this bond, and it was amazing. But I was like, I'm not doing this without you. And Shane thinks I would say she commanded me. It was literally like, oh, I'm helping. And, so she's like, oh, I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to do this. I'm like, great, I'll find, an invoicing system and I'll help with some of the back end stuff. I was doing music at the time. Okay. So I had kind of stopped the corporate stuff and was writing and doing music, and, hence us being in Nashville. But it got to the point where writing all this content, and I was helping write some of the content with the leadership things and whatever. And it just got more and more. And then when we had this conversation, like, I think you could make a whole company out of this and hire more coaches and teach them to coach, but you can't be called Sales Coach Dew. No. What's going to be Dew and her minions? Like, that's not what we want. Dew's coaching like program. A business. We had both worked at corporate companies, entities, and all that sort of stuff, and thinking about brand. And at one point she was like, I'm not gonna create a company unless you stop pretending like you don't work here. Yes. Like your face is going on the website. Like, we have to do this together. Your face is on the website. You're gonna be, a business card, the whole thing. And he's like, I'm not wearing suits anymore. I said, I don't want to go back to wearing suits. And she was like, deal. That's great. Cool. So my black T-shirt and black hat uniform was born, and that was kind of how we did it.
Did you define roles at that point? Did you each have your own? I don't think
we had to define roles. At Shane said earlier, we're opposite.
Right.
I don't think we had to define roles because, as Shane says about our coaching firm,
well, it was very natural. And I say we have complementary skill sets, but really that's just, we're so opposite, right? We're just opposite. And I say, can I cuss on this podcast?
Yes, you may.
I may. Oh,
feel free.
Well, I just always say, it's like, it was very natural to us because she hates all the shit I love doing. And I hate all the shit she loves doing. Yes. So it was very obvious what our roles were, and we didn't really think about it that much. Right. I mean, she's the sales guru, she's the coaching guru, and I had a consulting background and I do love teaching. But mostly for me, it's operations and culture and that sort of stuff. So even now, I still joke that I run a sales coaching company and I'm in charge of everything except sales and coaching. It's just, it's that sort of thing. But I will say we did draw out.
Yeah, we have an accountability chart.
Yeah, very early on, we did the whole, right from the E-Myth, book, we drew like the imaginary org chart. Now it's accountability because of EOS and all that sort of stuff. But we drew the imaginary org chart. It was like, here's all the roles. There's only 2 of us, so my name's on every box is either my name or your name. But that was super helpful, and I think really helpful once we start hiring people, because we had something written down we could show them, and I think for our team that's been helpful all the way through, because they know if I have a question about this, I go to Shane. If I have a question about this, I go to Dew. Who's the final say on what, and that's been really helpful. but it was easy for us to decide. I would say 90% of it was pretty obvious to us.
Just because of your natural skill sets, kind of.
Yeah, and experiences and whatever, right? I mean, I was an IT director, so like most of the process stuff, was obviously going to be on me. And then the actual how do we sell and how do we coach was a lot more for her.
So from the E-Myth, are you the manager, Shane? And isn't that, what are the roles that?
Well, now we're a little more EOS traction.
Okay.
And the terminology there, which the first time I read it was like, yes, that is
our roles,
which is visionary and integrator. And so she's the visionary who's like, this business is her vision, right? And how she wants to do a lot of this stuff. But also usually the visionary is the idea person.
Amazing ideas. Amazing. I have amazing.
She does thousands and thousands of them all of the time, right? So the integrator is a lot of times it's like they're the person who says no a lot, and that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's sort of like, how can we make some of these work? How do we set some of these aside? Maybe not quite right now. How do we go and implement that idea and actually put it into action?
You gave a really good example of that in action when we were at our business Better Halves dinner recently, where Dew came to you with the idea for a retreat, I believe, or a client party. And then can you tell that story?
I will. So I told Shane, I said, I have an amazing idea. I think that we should have all of our clients come together for a retreat where we teach them how to unplug and we teach them how to work remotely and we teach them how to just have a ton of fun. And we should go to Aruba. And he said, I don't hate the idea of a retreat, but I have to go calculate on it. So Shane disappeared for a while. And then he came back and basically had fixed the idea. Yeah. And he was like, okay, so here's the idea. You said we could do this, 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 and this. And he's like, but you know where else people like to travel? Nashville. Let's do the event here in Nashville. And so I come up with these amazing ideas and then he'll just make small tweaks and changes that actually make them successful.
Or possible. Doable. Achievable. But it's great too, because we've really worked this dialogue out, because she's very good. Now she knows that if she just asks yes or no, I think this is great. What do you think? My brain is like, this will never work because of this. And so it's going to be a no. So she doesn't. She'll say, I have this great idea and I don't want an answer right now. I just want you to think about it. It's just a general, I'm just spitballing here.
Throwing an idea.
Just throwing it out. Don't tell me yes or no. Here it is. And she'll give it to me and then she'll walk away. And then I'll usually simmer and ponder and think about things. And then I'll come back and I'll go, oh, that idea was really great. But if we just tweak this and this, I think it'll work. And, and she's like, cool, great. And then I walk away, but in her head, she's thinking, that's what I said. That's what I said from the start,
He just had to go calculate on it for
right.
I think that's really wise. Yeah.
Simmer.
Bake on it.
Yeah.
I think we're lucky to have partners like that, dude, because our ideas sometimes, we need the balance, because now that retreat has turned into a tradition for Skillway every year, and a very smart business networking, lead gen, opportunity for you guys.
Mm-hmm. It really has. She's talking about a rooftop party without mentioning the rooftop party. Well, our rooftop party is, we do it in downtown Nashville. We get a rooftop that's super big and super fun. And it is our opportunity to bring all of our clients and business partners and friends together. Vendors. It's just our way of, because we're in the relationship-based sales space, that we also want to introduce all of the amazing people that we know to the other amazing people that we know. And it's it has turned into quite a celebration.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Taking on a life of its own. But
next year you'll be there.
I know, we will be, for sure. No weddings.
So,
next year.
Dew, since you're the visionary, what's your vision for the company for the future?
There's a whole bunch of different visions that I think we have for the company. I envision a auditorium of coaches that we are continuing to train. I envision an amazing organization where our employees want to work. I envision a lot of that stuff. And I will say that a lot of those ideas have come from Shane and I playing from other companies that we worked for. I remember when Shane and I started Skillway, we were immediately like, this is going to be a corporation. Everyone's going to be an employee. We're going to do 401k. We're going to do amazing PTO. We're going to have these amazing benefits. We're going to create a culture where people love working here. And even though as a small company, we can't always afford those things, we have made them part of our budget because we knew if we wanted to recruit the amazing people that we wanted to recruit, we had to offer them all of the things that corporations offer them. Mm-hmm. And so even though I come up with these cockamamie ideas, Justin, there is so much planning and dreaming that Shane and I do on our walks every night and on our retreats that he and I take and spending time at the beach and reading books. Mm-hmm. We do so much of it together that I can't say that an auditorium full of coaches is my idea. I have no idea whose vision that is because we've created it together. But I can say that the ideas of creating all of the things that Dew comes up with, the crazy ideas are Dew's. But we really do. We don't, that part of that vision planning and the reason we called it Skillway was also because we knew someday we wouldn't be the owners of Skillway. We also created all of those things knowing that we're going to be here a long time. I have no idea how long we're going to be here, but it's going to be a long time before any of those second level vision planning things come true.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, we do that. There's a lot of dreaming and there's a lot of that, but there is also a lot of sort of, systematic, like here's a little more specifically where we think we'll be in 10 years. How do we get there? And again, we sort of use that EOS model where it's backtracked to like, all right, then what does it look like in 3 years? How big are we? How many people? And then we sort of work backwards for our 1 year and our quarterly and those sort of things. So we take those things seriously, even though at this point, the main leadership team is still just Dew and I. But we sit down and we work through and do those in that same manner all the time. And we're not really like trying to aggressively grow and get huge or get fast. It's about that culture and trying to, like she said, and we said, our tagline is crush your sales goals and love what you do. But like that starts internally. We really want our people to love what they do. And so we really stress a calm work environment. We really stress, flexibility and a good work-life blend and those sort of things. And then it's like, all right. And then our growth goals then sort of come out of, all right, well, even now we've got a coach who's been here almost 4 years, a coach who's been here almost 3 years. And it's like, all right, we got to grow if they're going to have opportunities to grow and manage and these sort of things. And we've got to grow a little bit or we will look and go, all right, we're still the bottlenecks in a couple places. We got to grow a little bit so we can hire someone to do this and hire someone to do that. So that all kinds of drives it, but there is a bigger vision out there of what we want to be in the marketplace and in the country.
I love hearing about plans for the future. I also love to go back to the past a little bit because I think there's such valuable lessons there. So can you think back to when you started your business, what things have changed since then or some big lessons that came out of those first few years, maybe from mistakes that were made?
Well, I mean, one thing is I definitely would say in that first year or two, I mean, if we were almost like working 24/7, like it was
all the hours.
all of the hours. Now you're excited and it's exhilarating and you're just doing it and you're putting together things like, okay, we're going to train and teach this thing we haven't invented yet. So we're writing content and editing and all those sort of things. And that was the biggest piece. And I think a lot of, even to this day, is sort of like layers of, taking hats off and trying to delegate things and trying to get yourself out of the weeds of every little thing. And on one hand, I feel like we're 100 times better than we were 6 years ago. And on another time, I feel like we're, as Jeff Bezos say, we're still in the first inning. We're still trying to learn and grow and do these things. I'll say one thing that we both have gotten much better about is we have both grown our sort of support system of people. I have my EO forum and my mentors and those sort of things, and she has her brain trust forums and her mentors. And especially for me, because I'm more of a, she's a networker and has all her friends and all this sort of stuff. That was tougher for me to realize how valuable that was. And we both have coaches and we both have, business coaches and all that sort of stuff. So I think that has been something that's really helped us as we've gotten bigger, is as much as we talk about everything and as much as we lean on each other for everything in the business, like we also have other places. She has places where I know she can go bounce ideas off of, talk through things sometimes before she even brings them to me. I'm sure she has even probably vented about me a time or two.
No, I doubt it.
But I appreciate that she has that, and that it doesn't, and vice versa. Like it's not all on her to help me work through some, issues that I'm working through or whatever,
Right. And vice versa.
Right.
Did you have anything to add, Dew?
I will actually share a story. It has come up many times on how we started to create boundaries, and I love it so much that I love teaching other people and sharing our big, huge mistake. I remember one night we were laying in bed, and that's where, you have all of your meaningful conversations. And I was asking him about a client, invoice. We don't remember anymore what we were talking about, but I remember he abruptly got out of bed and went back to work. And I remember lying in bed going, I just messed up. Yeah, I just messed up right there. And so we created the boundary that we can't talk about Skillway in our bedroom. And we have been walking down the hallway and we'll stop right outside our bedroom door and we finish having a conversation. And there has to be a point where you stop talking about work. And I have joked because, our team comes over to our house and we have, a house that has a conference room and those types of things. And I'm like, we have a bedroom that happens to be an office, or we have an office that happens to have a bedroom, because I feel like that's all we do, is live work here. But that boundary of stopping at some point at night where you're not talking about work anymore. And I know there's times where I'm sitting on the sofa at night and I'll be like, oh, and then I notice it's 7:30 and I'm like, no, I'm not going to bring that up right now, because it's too late, let's start unwinding. But I'm really glad we've now created the boundary of like Skillway doesn't live in our bedroom, because it allows us time to process and have Dew and Shane time as well. And we have date night where it's like, let's not talk about work tonight. Let's have a date night type thing too.
Yeah. There are so few, it does blur together so much. I think it's really important to carve out just a few red lines here or there, like something. But we both, go on retreats apart from each other and do some trips and things like that. And I think all those things help too, with some space.
Business Partners Podcast is proudly brought to you by Apple and Anchor.
Apple and Anchor create strategy-first brands and websites for startups.
As a busy business owner, you may have a great idea for your branding or website, but feel overwhelmed about what's required to bring it to life.
We provide a clear, step-by-step plan for your brand strategy, visual identity, and web design.
Check out our work and book a clarity call at appleandanchor.com.
And now, back to the show.
Do you find it challenging to find other things to talk about when you're in the no work time zone?
Shane and I have ridiculously big families, so there's plenty of drama.
Right.
No, yeah.
No,
There's plenty of other things, but Shane and I, we are also, and I'm going to say avid readers, and I can't believe I call myself an avid reader today, but we're both avid readers, and we're constantly talking about the books that we're reading as well, because we just love talking about business and strategy, but we also talk about the challenges our clients are having. So sometimes we're coming up with scenarios and fixing things. So even though, yes, it's work, it doesn't feel like work. We just, this is our normal life. We've done this for, 20 plus years now.
But we talk about fiction books we're reading, and we talk about other things.
Oh, the Vikings.
And we talk about I'm a Vikings fan. Lived in Minnesota for a while. So we talk, we have plenty of other things we talk about.
Watch out, you have a Packers fan over here.
He knows.
I know. Packer fan who went to the U of M. What's up with that? So we do. And she jokes too still, because I have, sort of this, I grew up in Oklahoma in a very small town, and there's just a lot of weird, crazy stories. But to this day, she's like, how do you still have stories I haven't heard? That's crazy. Like, I'll still come up with something, and she'll be like, that's not real. How has that not come up already? So I think it'll just, it'll keep on.
A lot of stories multiple times. How is that a new one?
Yeah,
how is that a new one?
Maybe, It's better this time. I've added to it.
There's some color.
Right.
Thought of a new detail.
What you told me about a phone boundary y'all have, which I think is one of the things that allows you to get so much reading done in the evenings. Can you mention that?
TV boundary. Yes.
Oh, TV. Okay.
Yeah, TV. So we, I don't remember what year it was, 2015, something like that. I read a study on self-made millionaires spend roughly 3 hours in the morning on themselves, which then started translating to me doing more research, which then we put in our content, which was the average adult watches about 5 hours of TV a day. And when we read that, we were dumbfounded at how much time you could spend watching TV. And so we said, how about if we just start implementing no TV on school nights and see what happens? And then we moved away from that house, and we moved into the last house we lived in, and we decided we weren't going to put the TV in the living room. We actually put it in like the office. And so if we wanted to go watch something, we had to go someplace to do it. And then when we moved into the house we live in today, we did the same thing. And so we have a no TV on school nights boundary that has pushed us. We play games at night. We'll play cards. We'll go for a walk. We go out to dinner, and we do so many things like that. But it was probably 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, I replaced my running playlist with audiobooks. And that's when I really started listening to books in the morning. But I always have a book on my Kindle that I'm reading. I have, we have books on our coffee table that we're reading, and then our audiobooks that we're constantly listening to. So that's how we continue to read so much. And we'll start reading, we'll both be reading a book, and then we close the book and talk about the book. Now let's talk about this book that we're reading. But we're constantly having that conversation between the two of us, where he's reading a book or I'm reading a book, and then it's like, okay, go read this, and then we'll have conversations about it. But no TV on school nights. We've done it for so many years that it seems funny that we used to watch TV now.
I actually brought that idea home to my daughters after we spoke about it, and it didn't go over well. There were tears involved.
I'm
Tears!
sure that's
not on my part.
Yeah, right. But I think that there's a lot to say about that too, because so many couples have TVs in their bedrooms as well, and it's like you're not getting good sleep when you're watching or falling asleep to thinking about a Friends episode or whatever it might be. So I'm glad that we never made that habit too.
Yeah, it was a weird transition for us, and it was a little bit tough. And we still own a TV, and we still watch TV or movies or something, but it feels a little bit more like we got to decide to. We got to decide to, or usually we talk about it, and we just start so many fewer shows and that kind of thing because the time just goes down. So I don't think I miss it at all. I feel like we have more weekends than not that we don't even watch it. We didn't watch TV at all this past. I don't remember the last time we turned on the TV. That's how many weekends it's been. We just forget.
I have so many follow-up questions. I want to know all the books you're reading and listening to, but we have like 5 minutes left. So we're going to have to get some questions in.
So back to working together. Shane, you kind of touched on this earlier. What's the one thing that Dew gets upset with most about you? Working together.
I'm like, how do I sort this list? I'm kidding. I think in general, I don't feel like we get upset very often, but just the whole, different personality styles, behavior styles. We're huge. We're huge into DISC and we use it in our business and we use it with our clients and those sort of things. But part of that's we love it because we are opposites. And a big piece of that is, what she was talking about before. Like I'm more likely to really spend a lot of time thinking through something and formulating a plan and that sort of thing. And she's a lot more spontaneous and that sort of thing. So when I think about if we frustrate each other or anything like that, it's usually navigating that. I would say in general, I would say she probably feels like I make slower decisions and I move slower.
He found it.
And in general, it's the same for me, right? Is on the opposite side. I'm like, say, slow down a little bit, like think through that a little.
Or he won't bring me an idea till he has calculated through all of it, and he'll bring it to me and he's like, so I've been thinking I'm on this for a month. And I will say, I don't know if you were going to ask me, Justin, but I'll assume is that, he'll bring me an idea that he's already worked through. And because he's worked through it completely, he thinks that I feel like I'm getting pressured to just agree with him rather than go think through it on my own. So I bring him everything. I mean, if I have a thought, I say it out loud, and that's just how everything goes with me. And it's a frustration because he takes so long to make a decision. But then when he brings something to me, I feel like I don't get the same equal time. And again, it's on me that I'm not getting the same equal time to think through it if I don't love the idea, because he's already thought through it. He's already created all of the answers and how we're going to roll it out. And that's how it feels for me sometimes is I'll say, I need to bake on this bet.
I can feel unfair because for her, she's sort of like, all right, this is the first time I've heard this. What about this? What about that? And I'm like, let me tell you, I've already thought about all that, and so that is true. And I think the other thing too is that with people who are more systematic and analytical and those sort of things, you can get the impression that they're moving slow all the time, which is not really the case, right? And that's why I feel like it's so important to put down on paper what your vision and your mission and your core values are and all those sort of things, because to me, those and our plans and all of that sort of stuff, because that does make a lot of stuff easier. So in the day-to-day, I make really quick decisions all the time because it's like, yes, I've already thought through that. Yes, it's pretty easy for me to measure that against this because it's like, where does that fit on our vision? How does that fit on our core values? Those are decision making. So, so there's a lot of things where I can go, yep, this is how we do it. But it's the bigger unknown things, the strategy planning, those sort of things, where it's like, all right, let's slow down a second. This is a different animal of decision. Let's make sure we don't break everything.
Well, Dew, every time I've seen you speak, like at the City Current events, Brain Trust Live, you always offer many nuggets, usually, of sales advice. But since most of our audience is other small business owners, what piece of Dew wisdom can you share when it comes to sales?
I will share my favorite idea, and I don't talk about it a lot, surprisingly, because it feels elementary. I am asked regularly, what's the number one sales skill that you could just give to everyone? And I would say it's improving your listening skills. We are always multitasking, which means when we're talking to a client, we're looking their account up, or when we are trying to hear what they're saying, we're also taking notes, or we're reading our email at the same time, or text messages, or whatever we might be doing. And being a good listener is what makes being a great salesperson so amazing, because when you listen, you then ask really great questions. It's my favorite across the board. I have the squirrel mentality, so I'm always being distracted. So I am not an amazing listener. So I also have to. So thank you.
I think you're a great listener.
So, but I think that that's part of it as well, is that even though listening is a skill, you have to keep working on your listening skills. It's my favorite tip of all time is just become a better listener. Just tune other people out, or think about what they're saying rather than thinking about what you're going to answer with or what you're going to respond with. And I always say it's such a huge compliment to me when I'm on my coaching calls or when I'm talking to somebody on the phone and they're like, Dew, are you there? Because they think they lost me because I'm just listening so much that I am not immediately interrupting. So
people are
that's
so used to that.
We are so used to it. We're so used to, as soon as somebody pauses to breathe or pauses to think or pauses to do anything, we're like, they want to quickly throw their nugget in there. But listening.
And that's usually where the magic happens. Someone says their answer and then you pause and you wait. And a lot of times they'll keep going. They'll come back and think about it a little more, that sort of thing. In Dew's defense, I would say she is a great listener. But I would say probably what she means is like, she was not naturally born with that ability. She has cultivated it and practiced and learned, and she's very intentional about it. And I think that's really or should be inspiring to people, because it is a skill that you can learn and you can, practice.
Absolutely.
Can you all share one tip to other business partners that has brought you success?
My tip for other business owners is probably, I'm going to say it's twofold. Get involved in groups. Have other people other than just yourself, have a mentor, join EO, join a peer-to-peer mentorship type group is so big. But I would also piggyback and just say, implement some sort of program that you're going to follow in your business, whether it is Traction, which is also known as EOS, or Scaling Up, or any of the other programs that have been created since then. Implement one of those things in your business and start doing it, as hard as it is to follow, because you really, it is hard to implement in your business, but it gives you the framework that makes decision-making a lot easier on when you're going to do things and do it.
It's a great tip.
Yeah. And I think, we've talked about it some, but really just boundaries, this sense of, the boundaries between the business and your personal life, and also the boundaries between who does what. Get as clear as you can about that stuff. And then I think the other thing is like carving out that time on your calendar to dream, to look at the future, to plan. We sort of feel like was because we're always together and we're talking all the time, like we do have a vision, but, to start that practice of, and that's the way we do it. We have, from the beginning, we have a weekly leadership meeting. It's just the two of us, but we have a specific agenda. And then we have quarterly planning and annual, which will go somewhere off-site. And all we do all day is that sort of planning stuff. It's like carving that time out. It's almost cliche now, but carving out time to work on the business and not in the business. And I feel like it's especially true with couples together or a family business or whatever, because the working in the business can just really take over your whole life if you let it.
Amen. Shane, do you want to close us out with a dad joke?
No pressure.
No. So I have so few clean dad jokes.
It doesn't have to be clean. You told one at the dinner the other day. What was it? It was a really good one.
Oh, that was bad. Like I said, I grew up small town Oklahoma. Every man in my family was like, they were cowboys and truckers. Like that was it, the whole thing. Cowboys where that's your job. It's a cowboy,
right?
Not like I wear a hat on the weekend. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of inappropriate kind of stuff.
I'm literally going through my. I'm like, no.
She's afraid. Yeah, she's very, very, very afraid.
So you're saying Oklahoma Cowboys are different than Nashville Cowboys? Is that what you're saying?
It's shocking.
Yeah, probably.
But,
yes, that's true. The Broadway ones, that's a little. That's not quite
the same. Mm-mm.
Cowgirls too. Yeah, Oklahoma, Texas. It's a little bit different.
You don't have any clean dad jokes, huh? Nothing.
Oh man, can't believe I'm drawing a blank.
If you think of a dad joke, just call and leave it on my voicemail, and I'll play it.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Show notes. A link to. Well, I tell you, I told you I used to be a musician.
Yes,
I was an artist, and I would be on stage, and now we're about to hit 20 years of marriage, but all the time, it was like, hey, we were married 7 years and I would always say, we've been married 7 years from the stage with everybody. I was like, we've been married 7 years now, but it just feels like 7 minutes. And everybody would go, aw. And then I would say, underwater. And
don't laugh at that crap.
For 20 years, she's like, that's still not funny. That's still not funny. I'm like, well, everyone else thinks.
I'm sorry for laughing, too.
It's okay. It's okay. February will be 20 years underwater.
February what?
February 17th is our 20th wedding.
Oh my gosh. What are you going to do to celebrate?
We're going to Turks and Caicos.
Hell yeah, nice. You are.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's our favorite island. We love it.
Congratulations. Well, tell everyone where they can learn more about Skillway.
You can follow us on all of the things. You can find us on skillway.com. That's just Skillway, Skillway, skillway.com. And then on Instagram and all of the other places, it's Skillway Company.
At Skillway Company.
Skillway Company.
Company spelled all the way out? At
yes,
Skillway Company. Yeah. Okay.
It's Skillway Company.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I have so many more questions. But
we might have to do a second episode. Yeah.
We have a part two. We have a part two where we're going to talk about dad jokes and books.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It'll be update, and then it'll start with a dad joke.
Update. We should do that.
Oh man.
Well, we appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Business Partners.
Find out more about our guests and follow their businesses through the links in our show notes.
Don't forget to rate, review, and share the show with your favorite business partners.
Special thanks to our sponsor, Apple and Anchor.
Now let's get back to business.